There's been a bunch of new details and insight into Dragon's Dogma 2 revealed in a Japanese video game magazine, which the amazing user Insider over on the Dragon's Dogma Discord has translated. So, as a massive Dragon's Dogma fan, let's go through some of these juicy details because at this point I'll take everything new that comes our way. And we even have an interview with the game's director Itsuno. Also, Gamescom Asia happened recently, and some lucky people got to get some hands-on time with the game once again. So, thanks to Gamer Braves, we got a look at some things that we didn't get to experience in our own playthrough. One interesting thing I spotted is seeing the vocation rank up. It looks like there are 9 notches that you need to complete to rank up a vocation, at least for these starter vocations. We can also see a player level up where they get to level 16, which gives a variety of stat bonuses. But the thing is, they are playing a thief class, and one of the stats that they get when they level up is actually plus to magic. So it has me wondering if stats are no longer tied to vocations, because it wouldn't make a lot of sense for magic to level up on a thief, right? We can also see this clip of the player falling off of a cliff into water and then walking into deeper water, which seems to start triggering some kind of effect that looks pretty bad. Also within the gameplay we can see them fight a troll, and it's another great demonstration of how crazy the pawns are, with Max just not letting go as he clings onto that troll's back. It looks like the troll actually walks and falls off a cliff and dies at the end, which leads to the level up, which is hilarious. But going back to the translated article, we start off with an image describing what Dragon's Dogma 2 is, and it reiterates how it's finally here after 10 years. The game is rightly described as an open world action game where you take on the role of an arisen as you adventure through a fantasy world with followers called pawns. They highlight how after the original game, its expanded version Dark Arisen, and Dragon's Dogma Online, the new sequel is here and we can once again jump into a classic fantasy world. I do find it interesting how it's being described as it being finally here, since we don't actually have a release date yet, but hopefully this will mean it's got to be released soon. On the other side of this page though, we can see the rest of the background, which features 2 characters, Nadinia and Ulrika. Nadinia is actually the Empress of the Beastren, and Ulrika is a human with a deep connection to our Arisen. Both of these characters are set to impact the story and our journey. Here we get a quick recap of the story and how we will start in an earthly prison, hearing the dragon's voice in our lost memories, tasking us to defeat him and claim the throne. It says in the gap between the kingdoms of the human and Beastren, a hero remembers his mission, the story of a person who slays a dragon and ascends to the throne. And in this next part we get some nice details about these 2 kingdoms, Vermund, the kingdom of man, and Batul, the country of Beastren. We know that our adventure is set in these 2 areas. We're set to begin first by visiting Vermund, the kingdom of man, where a past arisen is currently its ruler. Vermund is full of lush greenery and fortified cities, set to be bustling with kings, nobles, and commoners. But there's also Batul, the country of Beastren, with a unique culture that developed from the Canyon region, and their cities being built around ancient ruins. If anyone remembers any of the ancient ruins in the first Dragon's Dogma game, and what happened under the main city, this could be very interesting. It also has a small recap of the dragon, our arisen, and our pawns, which is where basically everyone fears the dragon and it leaves behind a path of destruction. However, some revere it as a god. We as the arisen are being followed by pawns, people that look like humans but are actually from another world. We'll have our main pawn and support pawns from other masters to make a party of 4. The next page goes over the day-night cycle, questing, and the ox cart system. Basically, time will pass and flow in the game, and it will change the visibility of the world, and at night it will be extremely dark where monsters can attack you and you could easily fall off of cliffs. This is why having a light source is super important, and they highlight the lantern as a must-have item. This is pretty standard if you played the first game, but it'll be interesting to see if there's any new spells or items that help with light. For questing, it's emphasized how you can get quests from a variety of sources, different merchants, soldiers and travelers and more, and that you can choose to do them or completely skip them. Meanwhile, for the ox cart system, it's pretty much a recap of what we saw in the 9-minute deep dive video a while ago. It functions as the world's fast travel system. You can manually ride the cart or sleep to skip time, but when you do this you can get attacked by monsters while traveling, and you must defeat the monster, drive it away, or run away yourself. And then next we have some details about class vocations, and this page is what interested me most at first, but sadly after fully digesting it, there isn't any actual new details about new vocations or anything like that. It reiterates how there's various jobs with strengths and weaknesses, and how it's best to make a party that covers all bases, and that certain jobs of course will be exclusive for our Arisen, like the hybrid ones. We get a short bio of each of the vocations, but we have a video going over these basically already. The next page, however, does show off a little bit about using the environment to help with monster encounters, as the game's physics systems can utilize the terrain by destroying rocks, bridges, and causing floods, like in this gameplay clip where we can see the troll get completely washed away, similar to the waterfall trap back in Monster Hunter World. Next up, however, we have an awesome interview with Itsuno, the game's director. He explains how producing a large-scale game like this requires a significant team, and that they finally had the environment ready to facilitate this, so they started developing Dragon's Dogma 2. He explains that they wanted to do many things in the first game, but simply couldn't because of technical issues. But after thinking that the RE engine and current technology could work for this title, he now wants to do it all. After finishing work on Devil May Cry 5, they started working on the special edition, and that was the moment that they could focus on Dragon's Dogma 2. He says he's really sorry for keeping fans waiting for so long, and he's definitely right about that because it's been over 10 years. It's hard to completely understand this next part, but it seems like what they're saying is that they're taking some of the action know-how from Devil May Cry 5 and incorporating that into Dragon's Dogma 2 that sounds absolutely amazing if you love action combat. He then expands on the world of the game, saying that it takes place in a parallel world within the same Dragon's Dogma worldview. From my understanding of this explanation, it kind of sounds like it might be a multiverse where there's many versions of the world existing, where the Arisen is trying to beat the dragon and claim the throne. This also explains how you could use other Arisen's pawns in your world but not actually encounter their Arisen in your own world. But that's just my guess. Itsuno then goes on to say how the world is roughly 4 times bigger than the last game without unnecessary and boring areas. He says he could just put a big desert in to expand it, but he wanted to minimize the boring times as much as possible. And honestly, I wish way more games would do this. Don't make a world bigger for the sake of it, make it bigger and include lots of interesting things to do, even if that means the overall game is smaller. Furthermore, he goes on to say that the game has very little guidance and you can freely explore and enjoy it in your own way. If you want to just explore or focus on the story, you can do that, and the pawns will help you out along the way with subtle hints so you don't get stuck. Because of this, they say their goal is to use simple words but in a nice way to guide the player with pawns rather than a direct guide wire. Later on, we get some insight into vocations, where interestingly, he then says that the method of changing jobs is a little different than that of the past games. I, for one, am extremely interested in this new vocation swapping system, and I really have no idea what they could have changed. They then go on to say that the Mystic Spearhand is a new vocation with a unique weapon, and that it's very technical and is an all-rounder that plays both short and medium range distances. He says the person in charge of the player character in Devil May Cry 5 is working hard to create it, which to me is extremely exciting given that this new vocation already has some amazingly awesome looking moves and attacks. Finally, he then explains how you can climb monsters and stand on top of them to recover stamina, which is something that we got to see in the TGS demo that we actually got to play. So make sure you're subscribed to stay up to date with all things Dragon's Dogma 2 because you know we're going to have your back when it comes to this game.